This is a totally different video that I expected to be doing on this guy. This is X-Transbots Locke, their version of a Masterpiece Scale Cup. Now this was announced back in 2017, I believe, so it's been a good 3 or 4 years for this to surface. As much as I like the look of Fan Toys Coot, I didn't jump on Coot. I can't really explain why. That doesn't matter. I don't have Coot. I waited for Locke. We saw a metallic painted prototype not so long ago, which I wasn't over the moon with, but looking back at that metallic one now, it kind of looks better than what we got, especially in terms of the overall finish. But nevertheless, my expectations and excitement for this were very, very high, and this was also a 40th birthday present from my wife. I was really concerned this was going to get caught up in the Chinese New Year post-nightmare, but it didn't. I've had this for almost a week now, which is a tad earlier than I saw a lot of the reviews coming out. So if I'm honest, I had every intention of doing an old school, hands in front of the camera review on this. I'll admit, I kind of knew that would get some traffic and maybe some new subscribers. But as soon as I opened this and felt it in my hands, any sort of positivity about this figure just vanished. Now, I've got a lot of X-Transbots products and they are renowned for being very, very hit and miss. Like, I had their pipes and that thing just wouldn't stand up. I've got Ollie version 2.0, which is Ollie version 2.0. But the most recent one I got before this was their skids, their Savant. And if I'm honest, that thing was a huge step up. So that filled me with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more faith that Locke would be in keeping with the quality and the build of skids. And I was just so wrong. I was so wrong on all levels. Now, I'm sure by now, if you're watching this, you've already seen other reviews by other reviewers. And the overall consensus is pretty negative, pretty average. A lot of people have the exact same issues, like the ab crunch transformation joint is all chewed up and very loose. There's a lot of weight on that part. And yeah, that just doesn't feel safe. The neck and head panel, on mine anyway, isn't flush, so I can't fully tab it in. So he's got a bit of a cricky old neck, which kind of fits his character, I suppose. That wasn't an excuse. This part was off in the box, that like the inner heel, that does tabs back in, but still not great. There are the usual cheap paint on die-cast parts scrapes already, straight out of the box. So yeah, I was down on this, and I was down on this for a good hour and a half. I was disappointed and I was upset because I knew for a fact that Lizzie would be asking me if I liked it, and I didn't want to lie to her, but she was at work, so I was by myself with this, and like things like the knees didn't move first time around. They were really stiff, and I was like, Jesus, I can't even put this into a pose and leave it there. And then, because I'd watched a YouTuber do a live stream on it, and the transformation, I'll be honest, isn't something I am ever going to attempt. I'm just not putting myself through that. So I figured I could put it in a pose and put it on the shelf and leave it, because at the very least it looks pretty. But then as I fiddled with it a little bit more and got it into a pose that I was somewhat happy with, I found myself just like staring at it, and I should hate this thing, because as a product, which is a transforming robot toy, it's unfit for purpose, because I'm not going to transform this robot toy, ever. But I don't hate it. And why don't I hate it? And why was I sitting there staring at it, and the ice wall that I put up for this figure, why was that slowly starting to melt? Up until that morning, I was sitting looking at this. If you were to ask me who my favourite Transformers character was, without even thinking, I would say Hot Rod. I absolutely love Hot Rod in the 1986 Transformers movie. And I never ever questioned him being my favourite character. It's just always been the way. But as I was staring at this Cup figure, and I've never had a G1 representation of Cup. I had the Prime Cup, I had the Old Generations Cup, but none of those looked like G1 Cup. This looks like G1 Cup. And as I was soaking the overall aesthetic in, despite the fact that this is arguably a piece of shit, something clicked in my head at some point, and it made me realise that Hot Rod isn't my favourite Transformers character. Cup is my favourite Transformers character. And I've just always seen that through Hot Rod's eyes. I know that might make me sound like an absolute psychopath, but bear with us. I adore the relationship between Cup and Hot Rod. It's almost father and son. It's mentor and student. It's the past versus the future. And that duality is just unbelievable. And to find that in a cartoon that was essentially a 90-minute commercial to sell figures. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, maybe I'm not. It's what I get from it, and that's what I'm going to discuss. Cup was the positive male role model that Hot Rod needed in his life to fulfill his maximum potential. And I feel like as a child, as a teenager, and somewhat even still as a 40-year-old man, I yearn for that strong male role model in my life because I've never had that. My dad was never there for anything growing up. He just didn't seem to give a shit. And you know what? I've come to terms with that, and I can honestly say I don't care anymore, because despite not having that strong male role model, I feel as a person, as a man, I'm not doing a bad job, and I'm quite proud of who I am and what I've become. But Cup is that strong male role model. Yes, he's cranky, and yes, he's hard on Hot Rod, but that's exactly what Hot Rod needs to become Rodimus Prime, to fulfill his destiny, to become a good person / robot. Yes, I am insane. I don't give a fuck at this point. I looked at this toy, and as bad as it is and as flawed as it is, I can't help but adore it, because it's Cup. It's my Cup. It's everything I longed for as a child on a personal and nurturing level in plastic and die-cast form, and it's right here in front of us, and it's right here in my hands, and I just can't not love this. And I'm not going to review this. I'm not going to transform this. I don't want to be part of the Fans Toys versus X-Transbots crap, because I don't care. Yes, Fans Toys make good robots. X-Transbots also do. Both companies also make shite. I'm not on one side. I've got figures by both. I'm just trying to talk to this bright light and camera in front of my face and figure out why I don't hate this, when as a consumer I have every right to be massively disappointed in this. And I understand why everybody who has this will be disappointed in it, and I don't knock that. And I'm not knocking you as a person for not enjoying this as I do, because I'm getting this mental level of enjoyment from this that probably shouldn't exist. Let's face it. I mean, it just reminds me of my favourite figure. This is my favourite ever Transformers figure, the Hasbro version of Masterpiece Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime. And this too is unfit for purpose. I've never transformed this thing ever because it breaks. The first copy I had of this was broken. But because I have this bizarre attachment and connection to these two characters as what I've always felt was missing in my life, these two kind of suck as toys, but as sentimental objects, they're amazing, and I love them both. So can I recommend X-Transbots Locke? No, if you're just wanting a figure that you can transform. Yes, if you want something that looks decent on display, because it's quite muted and it's quite dull. But man, he's just, I think you could probably put him on a shelf with third-party and official Masterpiece toys and be happy with this. But you could also get the same, if not better, from Coot. Don't know, maybe Takara one day will tackle their own version of Cup, and that will be the Cup that sends me into emotional overdrive. But for now, I am stuck with an imperfect but beautifully perfect Cup. Like, I wish I could explain it better. I wish I had the articulation to fully portray how important this is to me. I mean, I think I'm knocking it a bit. It isn't crap. It's perfectly sculpted. The backpack is perfectly acceptable. He's got strange butt flaps, which are quite loose, but that crazy moment when I realised that Cup was always my favourite Transformer and not Hot Rod, I wouldn't have had that without this bag of shite. And as unimportant as that might be in the grand scheme of things, especially in this day and age, it was a bit of a eye-opener. It just made me think a little bit, and it got me quite emotional, and I am overall incredibly happy having this, because I think I mentioned it in a previous video, this is going to be my last third-party, maybe even official, Masterpiece scale robot, because I feel like I've got everybody I need, and is kind of the end of the journey. So maybe it also represents that. It's kind of a reminder of how bad third party and masterpiece can go as regards to a toy with play value. So it feels like I'm closing the book on that as well, which is pretty cool. And interestingly, I kind of hoped it would come this morning, but it hasn't. It might come tomorrow or maybe even Monday by now, I don't know. Studio Series 86 Cup is on the way. And it'll be odd to see how I feel about that one, because that does look awesome, don't get me wrong, but I think this looks more like Animation Cup. I think it's all personal opinion, I suppose. I think for the difference in price, this should look more like Animation Cup, but that's neither here nor there. I'm disappointed I didn't get to do a full review on this, but overall, I'm happy that I now adore something that I spent the first hour with this in my possession of hating. It was a very strange just transformation in my mind. Yeah, X-Transbots can ride off into the sunset now as far as I'm concerned. I'm done with them. But I also want to thank them for just, I don't know. I just don't know. Kind of a pointless video this really. But look at him, man. All angry and old and cranky, but beautiful and guiding and strong and just there. He's there for Hot Rod, and he knows Hot Rod can do better. And he loves Hot Rod. And I love Hot Rod, and I love Cup. I'm fucking broken.